In 2001, this morning's guest invested in a theme park. The fantasy never happened, but rock and roll is here to stay. Meet him, coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Design It, the retail furniture gallery here on Highway 501 in front of the new Hard Rock Park. We're focused on the Hard Rock Park's grand opening today, this morning, and we're visiting with one of its local investors, local CPA, Tim Duncan. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning to you. I don't usually get up this early, but for you I did. You know.
Of course, this is a big day for y'all.
It is. It's the official grand opening of the park, which we will be operating in normal hours.
Right. 10 a.m. today.
10 a.m. today.
10 a.m. Of course, we've had the sound check going the last three and a half weeks, which has been a huge success. We were actually with many of your folks the week of, the kickoff week of the sound check. Even had Stephen Goodwin on the morning of the big day there. Very exciting. The cool country area, and the whole location is amazing.
It's a great concept. It's came about through the demented thought process of John Binkowski, our creative designer.
The chief creative officer, I think he called himself.
Correct, he is. Very creative individual.
Yeah, it was fascinating hearing him talk about his many trips to the area before he absolutely committed to investing here. And I think he bought what's now the cool country, the Ice House Theater.
He did. That's how he got his start. He purchased the Ice House Theater from Patrick Henry, who was the original gentleman who had the options on all the real estate out here.
Right.
And prior to that, John had a company called Renaissance, and John put together shows for people like Busch Gardens, Silver Dollar City, who is the owner of the Dollywood Parks in Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Sure.
And so John knew everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And so he basically bought all this together.
That's tremendous.
And decided he wanted to get in business for himself, bought him a theater, and got in the ice show business, and that's how it all started.
That is amazing, Tim. Well, before we get into that, real quick about yourself. Are you originally from the area?
No, I moved here in 1973, came to work for a regional accounting firm, and have been here ever since, and love business, love being in business. I enjoyed playing Monopoly when I was a young child, but I learned you don't buy Baltic Avenue, you get the boardwalk. You know, had to learn the hard way. But yeah, I've been here practicing accounting for 30-some years.
Yeah, 35 years.
Oh, don't remind me.
Oh, yeah, not to date you there. I think I saw, are you a graduate of UNC Wilmington?
University of North Carolina at Wilmington.
Okay, so are you a Tar Heel native, or?
You know, I am a Tar Heel native, and it's funny, when I first moved to South Carolina, everybody was talking about Carolina. And I thought, ooh, they're talking about the Tar Heels.
Right.
No, it wasn't the Tar Heels. It was the Gamecocks.
Absolutely, yeah. That is a funny transition.
And Chicken Bog.
And Chicken Bog.
Chicken Bog. Didn't know what Chicken Bog was. Didn't know what a stump meat was.
Oh, yeah. Well, we heard about that earlier this week. Russell Holliday was with us on Monday, and former Congressman Jen Rett with us on Tuesday, highlighting this upcoming Monday's big event, the 132 years of the Gallows Ferry Stump. Yeah. You've attended in the past.
Have not been.
Never. I'm going to let Russell know.
No, don't tell Russell that.
Our director actually has never been. She couldn't believe that on Monday. She wanted to take him.
I better go. I'll be over there Monday morning, first thing.
That's right. Russell may be tuning in. You're exactly right. And of course, a lot of folks think in just 3 hours from now, if they've never been to the park, today's the day. Everything's supposed to be open and rolling and running just straight out of the gate. But a lot of folks have really enjoyed this sound check over the last few weeks.
It's been a great opportunity for people to preview what's there. They got that meal voucher, so they got to taste the food, see the food. And I think it was a good, and they can apply that money towards the season pass. That's correct.
Yes. So just last night was that special celebration here on the 8th for annual pass holders only. And so a lot of folks were right behind us at the park for the concert and everything, just for annual pass holders. So
a lot of fun for everybody.
Yes. Of course, we've got a lot of props today, which we haven't had all week. A lot of great props here leading up through many of the stages y'all went through to make the Hard Rock Park reaction, which is a big deal, Tim. A lot that has to happen behind the scenes. Could you actually pinpoint where it began? Did it begin with John Benkowski?
Well, let me just first say this. This journey has taken more turns than the Zeppelin roller coaster and it had more peaks and valleys. But basically it began with John and Patrick. And John said, you know, this is really a great location for a park.
Right.
And so I had met John through Patrick, and I've always thought that Myrtle Beach would be a great destination for a park.
For a regional national theme park, yeah.
Well, having two young daughters and hit every park east of the Mississippi, I said, well, you know, we don't have one in Myrtle Beach. Let's take a look at it. Yeah. So we began with just kind of a luncheon meeting one day and talking about it and who should we invite. And of course, by this time, a lot of the land options had been taken down by Dick Rosen and myself because Patrick had certain deadlines he had to meet buying the property from WCI Investments. Mm-hmm. And that's how the theaters were purchased and resold. So we decided that we'd get together a group of prominent businessmen and talk about the concept of a park. And we had a meeting in which maybe 15 people showed up, and John basically gave his outline of what he thought he wanted to do and where we needed to go. And then we had another meeting about 2 weeks later, and Dick Rose and myself were the only two who showed up.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on. John was there, of course.
Yeah, John was there and Patrick was there. But, you know, and I've asked Dick since then, I said, maybe that said something about our intelligent level. I don't know. But anyway, we kind of started from there, really, and came up with the concept. I brought a few things for you to show your viewers today.
Oh, absolutely.
As to how we originally got started. It was going to be a 4-part park like it is today. Yeah. But it was going to be, I think, summer, winter, fall, and something else. And I always kid John about that, you know. But he keeps saying, well, that wasn't a bad idea.
Yeah. He had also said when he was with us a few weeks ago that he only thought about the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then, of course, determined that there's even something better than that.
Well, I think what happened is that was about September of 2001 or something. And so John wanted to get out of the box real fast, and he wanted to get before the people we thought at the time who would invest in this type of a park. Right. So they have an IAAPA convention every year, which is International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions, and they have the big gala event down in Orlando just about every year. They move it around. But, so we went down, and Stephen Goodwin came on board about this time.
Great, in 2001.
Yeah, way back then. And he was our financial guru. Right. And so we rented a room at the Peabody right across from the convention center, and we set up all these storyboards, and they invited all these people from Cedar Fair, Six Flags, Busch Gardens, and we had hired George Becker also. George used to be president of SeaWorld.
Oh, boy.
Fabulous gentleman, and he was kind of our credibility person.
Right,
you know.
right.
And so we sat in that room, I think, all day, and they made their pitch to these various people, and nobody bought.
Oh, boy.
Nobody bought. We went through about another year and still putting together a package, still working on the numbers. Stephen was working on the numbers and the projections. And at the time was about a $60 million investment. And everybody kept telling us that, well, God, if you were trying to borrow $200 million, it'd be a lot easier. So we said, okay, we'll go the bigger number. You know. Still not a whole lot of takers. We talked to a lot of investment groups, people like Blackstone and these other groups. And finally, John called me one day, and he said, Tim, my neighbor is Oliver Monday. He's vice president of development for Hard Rock. He said, I'm going to get a cheap bottle of wine and go see Oliver. And I said, well, don't spend too much. So John went over and met with Oliver and called me the next day and said, Oliver said, that's not unique to us. He said, actually, we had a proposal from Universal at one time to expand Universal's second park into a music-themed park. Now, the history of the Universal is when Universal decided to come to Florida, they were looking around for a partner to pony up some money.
Sure.
And so I don't know if you've ever heard of a company, Films by Deluxe. Films by Deluxe was a company owned by Rank. And at the end of every one of your old movies,
Oh yeah.
Color by Deluxe.
Right.
Color
Sure.
by
I
Deluxe.
have seen that.
They did a lot of work for Universal. So Universal said, we'd like you guys to come with us to Florida to build a theme park.
Right.
So Rank got in there, Universal was in there. Rank eventually owned the Hard Rock brand, most of it.
Right. Sure.
And Universal said, well, the first park's going great. We're looking to expand. What should we do? And they turned to Rank. Can you do something on the Hard Rock theme, on the music theme? Well, before Hard Rock could get back to them, all of Steven Spielberg's hits came about. Raiders of the Lost Ark and all that came about. So Universal decided to go in that direction.
Right.
So it was not something real new to them.
Sure.
So they asked us to put together a presentation booklet, which is kind of a little
And we have some of these. I know we've already gone beyond. I'll just hold that up so you can see that Fantasy Harbor theme park from 2001. I know we've moved into, and we've got another great shot there, that creative concept, as you say. So you were putting together lots of documentation, that Fantasy Harbor theme park, but ultimately you got to where the cheap bottle of wine led you.
Yeah,
which was to this, something like this.
Right after we met with Hard Rock, and Stephen, John, and I went down and met with them.
Right.
And by the way, Stephen was formerly with Hard Rock. I don't know if he brought that out.
Oh yeah, very definitely. We highlighted in one of his earlier interviews, which was actually a number of months ago when we were at a hardware store up in Myrtle Beach with the same woman we had earlier this week, Ann Powell, on Wednesday from the UDC.
Well, basically, we went down and met with the president at that time. We got a new president now, Hamish Dodds, and all the people around the table, and basically Stephen and John carried on the discussion.
Right.
And they said, well, come back to us with some sort of a conceptual, and we got back to them with that
was
thin book.
this thin one here, yes, which I'd held up a second ago, which is a great, and it is very handsome inside. We can't go over all of that inside, but
we chose an architectural firm, Morris Architects, who specializes, the Orlando office specializes in attraction type and themed type businesses. They do most of the Hard Rock cafes for Hard Rock, so we felt like if we went with Morris, they would know we were picking someone who had quality, had a record, and that's one
experience. Great.
But one of the funny stories that came out of that meeting was after we left the meeting, we knew they really wanted to do the deal.
Wow.
And we had to draw up a license agreement, which Stephen did. Stephen drew up a license agreement, but Stephen told us after the meeting, which I thought was pretty clever, he had reserved about any name that you could put on the web with Hard Rock Park, Hard Rock Myrtle Beach, this, that, and the other.
Right.
So Stephen got a call a day or so later from Jay, the attorney for Hard Rock. But Jay was not too happy that we had already licensed all those names.